Let's see here. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. Let's see here. Testing 1 2 3. Testing 1 2 3. All right, playing good. All right. Seeing as the audio is doing fine, welcome one and all to the Gamers Kingdom livestream. This is your host, Shadow Dragon GX, coming at you at Echoes Aria, the new story event for Punishing Grey Raven. Put my headset a little off so I can actually talk. The music is super loud, but seemingly the audio is coming good for me for my new Yeti microphone. So a little bit better quality going on right there. Anyhow, let's see what the new constructs Selena and Wanshi do for us in this new event. After the events have happened, well, where we left off was, what was it? From the actual canon events, it was Luna and them. As we ran away from that situation and not sure about the true fate of Luna herself. But anyhow, saying that, I hope you guys will like what you see. Like what you see, what comes from this chapter. So if you do like what you see, you like what you hear. Find what I do entertaining. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and help us grow this channel. So with that being said, let's get into the story. All right. Songs of the Eternal Earth. "5:30 a.m. Universal Time. On a transport craft in a low orbit. The engine emits a low and steady hum. After some time, the crew's ears become accustomed to the sound. Sorry, it's late. Rather than finding it disruptive, the uniform rhythm is like white noise, lulling the crew with the desire to sleep. Oh, I mean, feeling the same right now. It's pretty late, so it's but I want to get what I can in. Anyhow, continuing on. The seatbelts can secure them to their seats, comforting them despite the weightlessness. Yet their need and longing for gravity are instinctive, carved in their genes. There is a sense of emptiness and loss in the vacuum of space. This loss is only amplifies the sense of drowsiness. In order to suppress the impulse to close your eyes and take a nap, you slowly shift your gaze to the porthole. You see the quiet universe dotted with stars. The transport craft should be traveling at inconceivable speed. But in the vastness of space, the stars, millions of light years away, fail to serve as a reference point for you moving forward, regardless of how fast the ship is. If it were not for the hum of the engine in your ears, there would be no sense of the ship moving. The sense of emptiness continues to escalate. Just as your consciousness is about to succumb, numbness makes its way up your spine. Everything you see appears to stop as if someone pressed the pause button. Fragments of memories begin to rush before your eyes in a kaleidoscope of colors. Are we getting flashbacks? What's going on? You are finally infiltrated by Hua Shu in City 075. Your mighty beacon was forced into a corrupted mind. Initiating a mind connection with the corrupted is unprecedented. After a thorough examination, we found that your mind beacon has become corrupted. And up until this point, you haven't been able to recover from the corruption. I'm sure you've also noticed that your mind has fallen into a constant state of intermittent memory replays. Memory replays isn't exactly the most appropriate term for your symptoms, but it'll do for the time being. In other words, you will randomly fall into a chaotic storm of memory flashbacks without warning. Some of your repressed or supposedly forgotten thoughts, numerous fragments of memory will bombard your consciousness. There's nothing wrong with your physical body other than the mind beacon pollution, at least for now. The Science Council also wants to put you under constant observation to see whether any other physiological functions will be affected by a corrupted mind beacon. But that's for later. I think you'll have more difficult challenges to tackle in the interim. Your vision fragments again. What happened in the underground cavern is enough for you to be court-martialed. You're still sitting here only because you were responsible for defeating the Polyphage. Locking up the heroes responsible for defeating the Polyphage would only cause an uproar among the people. So the decision was made to allow you to continue field operations. However, don't think your merits have offset the severity of this issue. The authorities won't simply let bygones be bygones. As long as the distrust remains, countless pairs of eyes will be watching your every move. If you do anything out of the ordinary during this time, even the president can't protect you. Nicola has always been blunt, paying no mind. You know what he meant. It was more of a reminder than a warning. I know. Why are you telling me this? Because I had a suspicion that this isn't over yet. I need people I can trust and deploy when the time comes. That includes the Grey Ravens. I don't have time to have my people tangled up in bureaucracy, and neither do you. At the very least, soldiers should die on the battlefield, not on the gallows of those they serve. The most important thing for Eden now is to solve problems and defeat the enemy, not go on a witch hunt against one of our own. As long as you can prove your loyalty and your worth to Eden in the next battle, that supervision will naturally lift. But right now, I've heard from Asimov about your problems. Do you want to stay in the ICU or continue duty on the front line? Of course A golden arc of light suddenly shatters your recollection. I'm not fully... Okay, there we go. Your consciousness returns in an instant. You do not have the time to think about how long you were out, seeing that the arc slicing through your memories was not an illusion. It is real. Outside the porthole, the unchanging scenery suddenly shifts with the appearance of the arc. Like a scimitar fresh out of the forge, a gentle and curved horizon forms on the afterglow of the golden light amid the sea of stars. Hidden up until this point, Earth finally reveals its true face. Soon the faint golden light turns blinding white. As the transport craft continues to coast along in orbit, the sun slowly raises from the distant shadow, illuminating the surface of the blue planet in its entirety. Without the atmosphere to scatter the light, the dazzling rays of sunlight are sharp and absent of their usual tenderness. Just staring at it momentarily fills your brain with an unspeakable sense of vertigo. Come, man. Don't. Commandant? Someone seems to be calling out to you by your ear. Commandant! Right as your thoughts are about to drift away again, the stern voice brings you back to reality. You suddenly turn your head to see Liv and Lucia standing before you with looks of worry. Lee furrows his eyebrows faintly. Huh? Lee lets out a sigh of relief. His frowned brow seemed to relax as well. Don't look directly at the sun without proper equipment. Even though the porthole is equipped with a filter, the UV light is still enough to burn your retinas. Fine. I was just lost in thought. Lucy looks out at the porthole to where you were looking. She seems to want to say something, but before she can speak, she's interrupted by another harsh voice. Is now the time for slacking and idle chit-chat, Grey Raven Commandant? Following this, a hologram projection appears before you. Fluorescence lights from the outline of an elderly man in the air. He is wearing the same standard issue Commandant uniform. Every meticulous plea is as stern and as upright as his expression. The man's eyes are slightly cloudy with age, but his posture remains upright like that of an unyielding pine. With eyes like an old falcon, he scans all the soldiers aboard the transport craft. Although you are not communicating face to face and there is no literal eye contact, all soldiers presently subconsciously straining their posture as they meet his gaze. This is Hans speaking. I will be the chief commander for this ground mission. Asimov, the Science Council's chief technician, has already explained the specific matters of this mission to you. I won't go over them, as I'm sure I'm sure most of you have already committed the details of this mission to memory. However, given the lack of discipline among the construct squads I just witnessed, let me reiterate these orders to prevent further negligence. Upon saying this, Hans' gaze seems to sweep past you. Me his gaze. Let's begin the mission briefing. The following Hans' words, his mind returns to before your departure. 24 hours ago. Babylonian War Room. Several commandants gathered before the war table. The battle against the Ascendants has come to an end. Your heroic deeds on the surface were astonishing. Unfortunately, the Parliament is unable to give you the medals and honors you deserve at the moment. After receiving this urgent assembly order, you probably realized new troubles have arisen and are imminent. Silica, protected information.
Yes, President.
Silica quickly operates the terminal, and the holographic projection reveals a series of remote sensing images. Immediately, the dark blue screen is covered with large swaths of red. Sanguine crystal cluster bloom on the surface in the shape of an artery, forming a cobweb of rivers entrenched in the surface. Some of the images are very blurry, either due to issues with the transmission or perhaps the photographs were facing external threats and unable to record everything. Someone gasps shortly after the entire conference room falls deathly quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Hassan clears his throat, breaking the solemn silence. Asimov, since you were the first person to organize the data on the current situation, I think it's only appropriate you take it from here. Asimov nods and approaches the war table. By the look of his haggard expression, pale lips, and faint dark circles under his eyes, he appears to have had several sleepless nights the past few days. However, right as he opens his mouth to speak, his usual professionalism as a Science Council's chief technician officer and technical officer returns. Some of the teams that were dispatched during the last large-scale ground operation may be unaware of this, so I'll explain it briefly. As you can see, during our last ground operation, we've uncovered dark red tides containing new... He pauses for a moment as if struggling to come up with the proper wording. New forms of punishing virus. Based on their physical properties, the Science Council has decided on the name Red Tide for the time being. However, this is definitely not a natural phenomenon caused by the explosion and proliferation of red algae in the conventional ecological sense. This entity has nothing to do with water. After conducting analysis of the samples, the red liquid you see is the punishing virus itself. One of our construct teams engaged in a direct confrontation with the Ascendants during a previous operation. Nicholas suddenly steps forward and interrupts Asimov. Get to the point, Asimov. Nikola, let Asimov present whatever information he feels is pertinent to the mission. Asimov, furrows his eyebrows, seemingly slightly displeased, and he continues speaking. I won't repeat the specific details of the operation, only the results. The commandants present who have participated in previous operations have most likely encountered new forms of corrupted. These enemies are unlike conventional corrupted. Instead, they are a form of pure punishing virus, possessing apparent biological features. More specifically, they represent an evolution of punishing virus, punishing hetero creatures. The specific mechanisms and reasons are unknown. We don't know why the punishing virus is capable of evolution. Self-evolution. The only thing we can see for certain is that they are created by the punishing virus within the Red Tide. The Red Tide will devour machinery and organisms, then decompose them into nourishment for breeding hetero creatures. Originally, after repelling the Ascendants, the proliferation of the Red Tide began to diminish. However, we received a transmission from the recon team 24 hours ago. The Red Tide has resurfaced.
The proliferation is different from last time, so we didn't realize the severity until it was already too late. The red tide is like a relentless cancer, going into remission only to recur anew. The red tide initially lurked in an underground cavern that was designed as a nuclear fallout shelter by City-075. It circulated through the city's underground waterways before reaching critical mass and emerging onto the surface. We dispatched our recon team to the city's ruins to ensure that it was under our supervision. However, the characteristics of the red tide seems to fluctuate without rhyme or reason. In this regard, it is not tied in a traditional sense, but more of a fluid organism that can act autonomously. Plus, the underground cavern was built in secret, so many places are in blind spots. Some underground waterways connected to nearby rivers through an intricate network of pipelines. Even if the rivers have dried up, the riverbeds and ravines are still there. A portion of the red tide was able to slip out of the city undetected through these blind spots. Moreover, as you just saw on the screen, the red tide has formed tributaries along the surface of the wasteland. After receiving this information from our scouts on the surface, the Science Council has conducted emergency tests on this form of the red tide. Fortunately, this red tide isn't as rampant as the first time, nor has it expanded to the point of becoming an unstoppable deluge. Unfortunately, its distribution is still far too prolific. The red tide has formed a real river, dispersing into countless smaller tributaries. After calculating the course of these tributaries, we found one thing. They are headed toward. Asimov's fingers swipe past the screen, displaying a wider version of the map. His fingers points to a large blue sector. The ocean. It's heading toward the shoreline. If we allow the red tide to reach the shoreline, there's no turning back. Unlike the ocean, land serves as an inorganic buffer that can block the red tide. There's no better medium for the wanton proliferation and spread of the red tide than water. The whole sea will become corrupted, devoured and assimilated by the red tide. By that time, the punishing virus will spread to every corner of the world. In order to curb the spread of the red tide, Babylonia has formulated a plan to bombard the red tide with Longinus arsenal, referencing the plan made during the Battle of the Space Station. The first step of this plan is to obtain the exact coordinates and location of the red tide. During the Golden Age, you would only needed to send a request to SatNav's system to obtain specific coordinates for an area. But now the satellites have become corrupted by the punishing virus, so we can no longer rely on them. Hassan approaches the war table. Next, I'll brief on everyone on this mission. As you wish, Mr. President.
Asimov nods, then takes a step back. Silica. Silica presses a button. The movable panel on the center of the war table separates in two sections with a crisp pop as a small platform rises up from within. To everyone's surprise, a long black hexagonal needle, nearly 1.5 meters in length, appears. This device was promptly developed by the Science Council. It's called a bit domain node. It will be distributed to all teams. Team captains present at the beginning of the operation. Your task is to locate the edge of the red tide, insert the bit domain node, activate it, then protect it until you receive the evacuation order from Babylonia. The total coverage must include all the tide tributaries. We need to remove it all at once to ensure that there is no residual tide is left this time. If you are attacked by hetero creatures during this period, hold your position to ensure the integrity and security of the bit domain node. Node? Did you say nerd? No, node. In order to ensure that this operation goes according to plan, we will saturate our deployments, positionings, and attacks. 8 teams will be deployed to execute the calibration mission. Each team is composed of an elite task force led by a commandant and several construct squads. The elite task force led by the commandant will be responsible for deploying the node, while the construct teams will be responsible for protecting them in the interim. Hopefully,
all 8 bit domains nodes will be deployed. That's the only ideal situation. If you have any questions, please raise them now, and Asimov will explain the details to you. What is a bit domain node? Where to start? It's not overly technical. It's a rush job used to temporarily replace satellites. The nav system continues to broadcast its current coordinates in time. However, thanks to the punishing virus, there are no navigation satellites available in low Earth orbit, so we had to use a bit domain nodes instead. When they're deployed on the surface, they will measure the distance and angles between the other nodes, then continue to broadcast a signal to space. After receiving the signal, the Babylonian will calculate the specific coordinates of each node, then delineate the attack range from the launcher's arsenal. It should be noted that the current and orbital altitude of Babylon allows us to orbit Earth in about 2 hours. The signal from the nodes will only be received when passing through the airspace within the range of the nodes. This is also why you need to defend the nodes upon activation. Are there any other questions? Alright, there's just one more thing I'd like to add. Unlike when the red tide was found in City 075, the consistency is more like a running wire than thick in mud this time. We aren't sure why. Regardless, all you need to do is know that the concentration and validity of the red tide are significantly less than what it was before. Only when the tide rises will the punishing virus concentration reach the equivalent found in dead zones. According to monitoring reports, low tide concentration is within the range of the normal punishing zones. This is one of the reasons why the recon team failed to notice the red tide had moved. Thankfully, however, this means that the protective devices enhanced by the Science Council on such short notice are sufficient for working in proximity to the red tide for the duration of the mission. However, it's only for a short duration. Avoid close contact with the red tide after landing, especially during high tide.
That should suffice. Seems like everyone fully understands the mission and the gravity of our dilemma. This presents an important opportunity for Babylon to launch an attack. However, we need to change orbit and reduce altitude to commence an attack, which puts us at risk at intersecting the network of the corrupted satellites. As such, our anti-air defense won't allow us to remain in position for very long. Similarly, your mission is not to annihilate the hetero creatures, but to deploy the bit domains. Though the nodes aren't particularly difficult to deploy, but in a strategic sense, this mission is crucial. It requires a high degree of collaboration and team awareness from all of you. Avoid head-on confrontation and needless acts of heroism that do not otherwise serve the success of the mission. Our top priority is to protect the nodes until the Babylonian receives the coordinate data. I know that the commandants of the task forces present are among the most elite. I do not question your ability. However, this operation needs neither personal heroism nor combat ability. What matters most are judgment and decision making for the overall benefit of the mission. Most of you are used to fighting solely with your own team, so for this operation only, I have specifically arranged Hans to act as a chief commander for the collaboration operation at the ground level. Hassan slightly turns to one side. The silver-haired man standing beside Hassan in stern silence since the beginning steps forward and salutes. Yes, Mr. President. Seems that some of the team captains present show frank expressions of confusion on how an elderly man, seemingly a few years older than even Hassan, is serving as the chief commander for such an important mission. For safety reasons, one of the commandant of each task force has the authority to deploy their bit domain node. Please make accurate judgments and verify with Chief Commander Hans before activating your bit domain node to ensure that Babylon receives the most accurate coordinates. The rise and fall of the tide will greatly affect real-time topographic changes within the combat zone. There may have already been significant changes within the duration of
of this meeting. In case of an emergency, please follow Chief Commander Han's orders. This concludes our mission briefing. As previously stated, give priority to my command. Don't question my judgment. Obeying orders is the first requirement of a soldier. I hope the forces of Babylonia nowadays won't let me down. With that, his hologram disappears from the transport craft. Not personal. What the fuck? Rise of fluorescent lights dissipates. Everyone cannot help but breathe a collective sigh of relief. Whispers from the other construct teams can be heard nearby. Have you met Chief Commander Hans? No, but he looks older than the president. Isn't he a bit old to be going out on the front line? Who knows? Don't write off Chief Commander Hans so easily. There must be a reason why the president arranged for this. Commander Chief Hans was born in the Golden Age. He experienced post-pandemic age and the Arcadia evacuation firsthand. After that, he continued to work in the Center for Combat Intelligence as one of its core members. I didn't expect that this operation would need someone of his caliber to join us. I'm sure he's seen his fair share of warfare and bloodshed, just like the president. He's bound to be strict on others. Don't take heart what just happened. Don't take to heart what just happened. You worried about me, Lee? I just don't want my commandant to worry about such trivial matters. His personal information is not confidential and can be accessed directly in the archives. There's nothing worth talking about in private. You smile and nod at Lee. You glance to the side at Lucia, who's staring out of the porthole. Lucia? Apologies, Commandant. What are you looking at?
I'm just looking at the same thing you were, Commandant.
The sunrise?
Yes. You weren't just lost in thought, were you? What were you thinking about, Commandant? Sunrise at low orbit. Sunrise at low Earth orbit looks completely different than it does on the surface. Is that what you were thinking?
Lucy lets out a very visible smile.
I'm finally beginning to understand what you're thinking, Commandant. It's so bright. It's even overloading my visual components.
In low Earth orbit, Babylonia completes in one revolution around the Earth in approximately 2 hours. Such a sunrise occurs more than 12 times a day. All residents of Eden, born in space, have long been accustomed to such a spectacle. The rising and setting of the sun no longer serve as a symbol of hope. Day and night are no longer measured in 24-hour cycles. People must rely on other ways to define their day. How much longer? How much longer until landfall? 300 kilometers is not that far. Looking down from this height, the entirety of the blue planet is no longer in view, only the changing surface. The red-tinted earth, the blue ocean, rolling storm clouds along the tropics dancing in the stratosphere, quietly shrouding the earth. For some peculiar reason, as the distance gets closer and closer, the haunting sense of emptiness gradually disappears. This is not going to be returning to Earth. Upon arrival, everything will once again carry its intended meaning. It is the cradle of all life, and the home of which all life will return. Attention passengers. The aircraft will begin to decelerate and reduce orbital altitude. Reverse thrusters will ignite in 15 seconds. Rapid deceleration will generate 2 Gs of force. Please fasten your seatbelts. The broadcast on the intercom suddenly halts all extraneous thoughts. Sit upright and firmly grip the handrails. A sudden force pushes the crew firmly against the spongy padding of the seats. The overwhelming pressure strains their eyes, hearts, and bodies. Jesus Christ. Oh, I cannot imagine that. But this oppressive force and restraint. completely dispelled all previous unprovoked confusion. Lone Hawk. And since we got the collab characters, I'm going to use them for a little bit. Why? Wait, can I not? That was weird. What the fuck was that? Like it was turning into the regular mouse and not allowing me to pick it. On the desert wasteland, jagged rocks jut out the ground through which the red tide flows. Wanshi squats on a towering rock formation. The red tide quietly trickles below. Although the tide here occasionally swells, it is not an unstoppable force like the previous accounts in the city ruins. Occasionally, he sees strange debris, rusty metal, shredders, rubber, and even pale animal bones floating in the red ichor. There doesn't seem to be any fear in Wanshi. He just lets out a big yawn instead. How much longer do I gotta wait? On the rugged surface of the rock, there is not a flat enough surface to place the tripod for a sniper rifle. Well, the latest information should have been uploaded to Babylonia. What's taking us so long? I don't know what's going on with the captain either. I'm always let to do all the recon work here. Now I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. If they don't just dispatch any reinforcements, this place is gonna... The Red Tide tributary had only just reached this place 24 hours ago. But now, aside from the only tallest of rocks, the entire area has been completely flooded. Fortunately, the red tide is only quietly flowing and not surging out of control. The rock on which he stands on still towers above. High above, the invert device and protective equipment strengthened by the support force on such short notice enable him to make observation from a relatively safe distance without fear of corruption. However, this cannot continue much longer. It was only a sparse red tide tributary not long ago. Now it's completely inundated the area. Even if he proceeds with caution, he's better off leaving this area sooner rather than later. Not only is the punishing virus concentration rising, the red tide also brings life to the punishing virus. The red tide surging below the rock is a breeding ground for hetero creatures. Large red crystal clusters, like reeds and shrubs, surrounding the trickling tide. Red creatures of various shapes and sizes pass between them. These creatures are neither corrupted machines nor constructs. These hetero creatures glowing with a red aura are merely vestiges of life on the earth that have been devoured by the red tide. On the riverbank, Wanshi catches a glimpse of a motionless stone suddenly crack as four limbs protrude from within. Wanshi's bionic skin quickly calculates the current wind speed. 1.6 meters per second when blowing from 4 o'clock. My sniper scope should move a notch to the right to compensate for the wind. Slightly leaning to the side, the crosshairs in a narrow scope moves on the mill to the right. Ready, aim, fire. Bullseye. The bullet releases from the chamber landing a direct hit on the hetero creature. The hetero creature collapses onto the ground, writhes in pain, then becomes limp and lifeless. Soon after, the overflowing red tide reclaims it into its nutrients for the hetero creatures to spawn from within. There's no end to them. Setting down his sniper rifle, Wanshi takes out his rangefinder binoculars and looks in the direction of the extending tributary. This rock is about 20 meters in height. Without obstacles and regardless of the meteorological conditions, the maximum distance that can be visually measured should be... Wanshi closes his eyes for a brief second before arriving at a conclusion. 17 kilometers. However, the rangefinder can no longer see the end of the tributary. In other words, the red tide tributary currently flowing below is extending at a speed of more than 17 kilometers a day. Looks like there's no laughing matter. He puts away the rangefinder that stands up. Suddenly, the deafening roar of motors rumble in the sky above. Wanshi quickly looks up, his drowsy eyes suddenly open wide. Huh? I don't believe it. Shooting stars aren't visible during the day. But in Wanshi's golden eyes, he sees a vivid reflection of a metallic meteor followed by a long trail of black smoke as it descends to Earth. Oh, it's the same thing over again. Aircraft is approaching ionosphere, entering communication blackout for 67 seconds. All deployment has switched to onboard wire communication. The aircraft is approaching the mesosphere. Preparing to shut down aerospace engines and switching to aircraft engines. Please fasten your seatbelt belts and brace for turbulence. The aircraft has entered the inner atmosphere, initiating aviation procedures. The aircraft has entered the stratosphere. The aircraft has entered the troposphere. Due to impaired visibility from the current sandstorm, the system is unable to confirm the location of the red tide. The system can detect the red tide? Then we must proceed according to the original plan. Our mission starts now. Disperse and proceed with your duties. I wish you all the best in completing the mission. That was fast. The sudden tremor of the hull made every passenger's heart skip a beat. The blind shaking catches you off guard, causing your head to bang against the hull of the aircraft. Jesus! Normally you would be able to stabilize yourself, however your consciousness becomes shrouded in darkness before you're able to adjust your posture in time. During a memory playback, you'll be completely pulled into a memory spiral. This overload of information will make you unable to control your body and perceive what is happening around you. Fortunately, the playbacks dissipate as fast as they manifest. You may recount a certain duration of time subjectively, but only a few seconds may pass in real time. By the way, during this period, your subconscious will become hyperactive. You may be overcome with perplexing ideas and make bewildering decisions. That's because your brain processes a lot of information internally, but your subjective thinking can't keep up with the processing speed. I can't say for sure whether this will have a positive or negative impact. However, it's worth noting that the situation on the battlefield can change at a moment's notice. Since your memory playbacks are unpredictable and beyond your control, they may prove fatal in battle. To be on the safe side, I advise against participating in battles that require direct confrontation with the enemy for the time being. Just as you pull yourself out of the memory playback, the metal hull rapidly approaches. You struggle to avoid a collision, but you cannot even lift a finger. You can only succumb on the whim of your memories. It's been quite some time, Great Ribbon Commandant. Surprised to see me? I take it. To be honest, it took some time and effort to reach you. If Chairman Allen had been lobbying for me, I don't think this would be possible. Miss Ayla? The task force have all heard about the heroic deeds of the Grey Ravens at the Ascendant base. I've even heard about them in Babylonia. If you've been in direct contact with the Ascendants, have you seen the Ascendants who attacked me on the space station? Never mind. He's not important. The only thing I care about is whether you found any sign of her in their base. What do you mean by her? Just as the pink-haired girl is about to say a name, your memory stops and it comes to black as if it had been tampered with. Severe pain fills your head and your thoughts stagnate for a moment. Commandant! Sorry, I was lost in thought. It's turbulence. Stay put. The aircraft is experiencing turbulence. Attempting to stabilize altitude. Please stay seated so as not to change the aircraft's center of gravity. Thunderstorms rumble outside the transport craft. Electric arcs flash among the clouds, shaking everyone with an even more violent tremor. Experiencing excessive turbulence. Attempting to disengage by expediting the descent sequence. Please do not panic. No, in a situation like this, that won't. The turbulence continues to escalate. The aircraft has deviated from the original target. The aircraft is still experiencing turbulence. Turbulence has deformed the port side wing due to excessive load bearing. Aerodynamics compromised. Initiating emergency landing procedure. The sharp crunch of the port side wing proves to be the final blow to the transport craft as half of the deformed wing plummets to the ground. The aircraft cannot return to stable altitude for landing, estimating ground impact of approximately 15 degrees. At this angle, the aircraft is at risk of crash landing. Initiating parachute evacuation procedures. Depressurizing cabin. Opening tailgate in 15 seconds. Tailgate open. All personnel, please parachute out immediately. The initial impact against the hull nearly knocks you unconscious and you struggle to move. Descending into a tailspin, the blood on your forehead blurs your vision. The seatbelt is now proven to be a death sentence. Prior to the impact, repeated attempts to release the seatbelt are all in vain. Asimov was right. During a memory playback, you're but a lamb to the slaughter. In a dim haze of light, you catch a glimpse of the construct teams evacuating the aircraft one after another. Hurry up and prepare for the evacuation. Right as you stand up, the cabin shakes violently. I'm scared a bit, Dwayne noted. When will we parachute out?
Too late. The transport craft is stalled. It's too dangerous to parachute now. Brace for impact, Lucia. Help the Commandant.
Got it. Right as you're about to crash into the metal hull again, someone shields your head and pulls you into their embrace. The embrace is cold and familiar. Oh, Lucia. Lucia. I've got you, Commandant. Don't worry. I'll protect you. Closing my eyes. Sometime later. Maybe it was just a few seconds. Maybe it was quite some time. When all the dust settled, the forced landing was closer to a crash landing. You hear the sound of a laser cutting metal by your ears. You open his eyes. Shouldn't it be you opened your eyes slightly to see Lee cutting away the hole? Lee, Liv, Lucia, don't move, Commandant. In a rare tone of sternness, Liv stops you as you prepare to move. Lee kicks open the crumbling metal hole that had been cut. At that moment, light from the sky pours into the cabin.
Hurry! Lucia, get the Commandant out!
Lucia removes you from the transport craft. Looking around, you find the three consorts unfazed. Your wounded forehead is the only sign of damage. Lucia, set the Commandant down. I'll apply emergency aid. Alright. Having experienced a former medic, having experience as a former medic, Liv quickly stands up bleeding and bandages your wounds. Fortunately, it's just a flesh wound. It looks more serious than what it actually is. Eyebrows furrowed, Lucia lets out a sigh of relief to the side, then draws her weapon and looks around vigilantly.
Now is not the time to let our guard down. Watch your surroundings.
Surrounded by barren wasteland, the crash site must be far off from the beam path leading to the original destination. If it's just an ordinary wasteland, it would not have mattered. More importantly, however, was where the crew had crash landed. What's that? To everyone's surprise, the crash site is not just a remote location, rather it is amidst the tributaries of the Red Tide. More actively put, they are at the bar of the tributaries. Though they are not inundated by the Red Tide, they are by no means out of harm's way. Sand billowing their wind and impairs visibility, making movement in any direction nigh impossible. What's that sound? The sound is rich and melodious, like the call of a large mammal. As the sound becomes louder and louder, a rustling approaches from the depths of the sandstorm. In a flash, the three gray ravens stand in front of you, to protect you.
Alright, here we go.
The dust storm is too heavy. I can't see where we're going. We received a comms request of an unknown signal. It's identified as a Babylonian construct.
Put it through, Lee. Gray Raven. And you are?
Want to see at the Strike Hawk. I've been scouting in this area. You're at the heart of the red tide. You must leave immediately. I'll let the beacon in the nearby area. Move towards this direction. Wait, do I have to? I have to personally do it.
Why are there human clothes?
It's too wide open here. People can easily lose their sense of direction. They probably thought they could cross the desert.
Wait a second. There's something in the jacket. It's a piece of paper? What's on it?
The remaining food and serum can't last us through this winter. We must move. We need to find enough food so Ray and others can.
It looks like a torn diary. I can see the D at the bottom. There's only this page left. The edge of this paper looks like it's being burned.
The temperature difference between morning and night can be huge in this environment.
If they had to burn their diary to keep themselves warm, they probably already.
Let's keep moving.
Is this the reason why I couldn't? What the heck are you doing?
But I can't die here. I still want to see him for one last time. My death has its value. I wouldn't complain about. I don't complain at all. But I haven't brought anything back. Ray, you must. Watch out! Hydro creatures! Woo!
Let's keep moving. And the beacon isn't far away.
Oops.
We should be safe here, right?
Despite the dense layer of clouds overhead blowing out the sun, the Earth's surface is still scorching hot. The sand and the scorching wind stings your face. Oh.
There it is again.
The sound echoes to the air. The red tide, which was full and quiet, begins to fill the riverbed once more. Although the sound seemed distant, it still seems to resonate from every direction.
Liv, the injected countdown with the serum. The red tide is beginning to rise again. Punishing concentration is rising at an unprecedented rate. That was the last one. Most of the serum was smashed in the landing. The pit domain's nodes support frame And even the comms device for contacting the main forces were all damaged.
How long can we hold out?
Less than 2 hours.
Holding the broken bit node, Liv shows a look of guilt.
Sorry, Commandant. I couldn't keep it safe. This all happened so quickly. It's not your fault.
The Commandant's right. We couldn't have anticipated that.
The team falls silent.
Can we really trust the constructs that claims to be part of the Strike Hawk? If he's one of Krone's comrades.
Right at the moment, a hero creature appears out of nowhere and ambushes the team.
Commandant!
Right before the hero creature is about to stab you with a sharp spike, a bullet pierces the air and penetrates the creature. Still in shock, you cannot help but look at the direction of the shot's trajectory. A white figure looms in the yellow sandstorm. Just a reminder, your cons have been on this whole time. I heard everything you said. Just now. That was me. His languid voice suddenly becomes serious. Quit looking around and get over here. After quite some time, the four of you finally catch up on the white figure. Before you stands a young man with delicate silver hair and thick dark circles under his eyes. Wait. Gin? From Gintama? No, why is she correct? Thank you for... thank me when we get out of this place. Come with me. Yeah, I've already meaningless greetings are skipped over before they even begin.
What's going on here?
You first.
We ran into turbulence.
Both sides are concise in their exchange. Lee is not wanting to mince words, and Wanshi is too lazy to waste words. Wanshi glances upward. I figured. Otherwise, that lands was a bit His face turns blank. If it was yesterday, landing here wouldn't have been such an issue. Unfortunately, you're a day late. You mean? Wanshi's troubled eyes widen as he retains his apathetic tone, then responds seriously. The red tide hasn't reached this place until today. You better see if you you'd better see for yourself rather than me simply tell you. Let me start over. I'm Wanshi from the Strike Hawk of the task force. Chrome was my captain. I'm sure you met. Since the last battle, Strike Hawk has been investigating what's left of the Red Tide and searching for the location of the Washu in City 075. After hearing about the victory against the Palophage, we stayed on the surface to continue monitoring the Red Tide. I was ordered by our captain to investigate the city's periphery. I was also the first person to inform Babylonia on the Red Tide's activity. Since Babylonia dispatched you here, I'll spare you the details. Since Babylonia dispatched you... Okay. I know who you are. Bray Riven, correct? Our captain mentioned you, especially you, Shadow Dragon. Wanshi's seriousness was only momentary. Shortly after he returns to his usual lazy self. But look, looks like his description wasn't exactly. His eyes narrow. His narrow pair of girl glances at you faintly. He cuts himself off halfway with a long yawn. What was that sound earlier? Oh, that. It's always lasts anywhere from 30 seconds to 60 seconds. That long? Yeah, human ears can hear a part of it. The frequency is between 10 and 40 hertz. But you can probably only hear it above 20 hertz. Whenever the sound starts, the red tide begins to spread. What on earth? Sounds like a whale song. It sounds like a whale of a song. Okay, I'm starting to feel it a little. God dang it! I wanted to, go on for some more, but I think it might be best I, call it after this. Human ears can only hear above 20 hertz, whereas the vocalization of a blue whale is typically between 10 and 40 hertz. Humans refer to this as a whale song, but this isn't the ocean. This is a desert. How can there be the sound of whales? Not to mention that the life divine red tide rises whenever it happens. But if it's a death knell, then it's far too serene. Okay, yeah. I can already tell that I'm, as much as I want to get more done, I at least wanted to start the archiving of this stuff. So that's the beginning for now, and I'm gonna go ahead and call it a night. I mean, I could stream long. I should stream longer. Stream longer, simply because that feels like it's too short. But at the same time, it's pretty late, and I can already feel the encroaching tiredness, and sleep, coming to claim me. So before I literally sleep on stream, I'm going to end it. But anyhow, if you like what you saw, you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let me don't be afraid to let us know how we can grow as a channel. It would be really appreciated if you did, and hopefully we can still make this channel a thing. So anyhow, see you guys later, and hope to see you in the next stream. Bye.